shiny happy people. How are you? I miss you still. And sometimes it feels like a part of me has been ripped out, but we will get through this. Through meaning we get through from one end to the other and come out that other end. Through. That's what through means. It doesn't mean go into and stop. We'll get through it. Tech, I think, wants to say hi. Oh, say hi, Techie. Say hi. I wish Penny would come over and say hi. I hope you can't hear the TV too loud. I leave it on because she's in a really barky mood today. She gets like that. She's our defender of the perimeter, so with the TV on, hopefully keep her calm and all. So welcome to the last chapter of the new national direction, the Resurgence of Conservatism. All you're going to do this week, you're going to watch these PowerPoint videos. You're going to jot down a couple of points that you get, things that are kind of important that I point out, and shoot that to me in an email or in Schoology, what have you. And that's it. And then if you do that, then for this week you get a P, which means pass. Okay. While I'm waiting for you to grab something to either write with, or if you're going to use your phone or whatever, you can use a Word document or whatever. You can even just type out an email and send it to me. That's fine. While I'm waiting for you to get your materials, one little announcement. Please read your email, okay? When I look at emails that I send you guys that are very, very important, that you have to know that information, and then I look at the email the next day and only 15% of the people I've submitted that email to have read it or opened it even, I'm like, ay, what am I going to do? Please read your emails, guys. It's so important. I'm not there in the room with you to tell you the stuff that you need to know. You just got to read those emails. And I know you know how to read because you're in the 11th grade, okay? You know how to read. If you're not clear on some stuff, if I'm not saying that to where you understand it, please ask me and I'll be glad to reword it or whatever, okay? But it's so important. You just have to read your emails. Those are the days we're in right now, okay? It's not going to be like that forever. I've got hope. But that's what we're doing now, so I'd much rather be in the room with you guys, jumping all over the place, acting like a fool, woo, you know, like I always do. But I can't. But it's okay. This is better than just sending it home and saying, hey, just read this. Right? Maybe. Okay. While I'm still waiting for a couple of you who may be looking for a pen or a paper or something like that, I'll point out, yes, you like my t-shirt? It's Led Zeppelin, and it says, if the sun refused to shine, I would still be loving you. Mountains crumble to the seas. There will still be me and you. It's from the song Thank You. That was me and Sam's wedding march song. Today's my husband's birthday. Today's the 21st. Yeah, he's finally caught up to my age. He's an old man like me, an old lady. Yay. No, I'm not old. It's all in here, and it's all in here, right? Okay, so let's go on with the PowerPoint. Resurgence of conservatism. This is where Republicans start making a big name for themselves in our politics, in our government. We've had a lot of Democrats. We've had a lot. We've had FDR, we've had Johnson, we've had Kennedy, we've had Carter. Nixon and Ford were both Republicans. Now we're going to get another Republican president. We are going to get Ronald Reagan. Sorry, I got an email. I just glanced down there. My phone has been buzzing like crazy today. Okay, so conservatism. And you're saying, I don't know what that is, and that's okay. So remember this thing? Yes, I brought home a whiteboard just to do this particular thing. So we always do this political spectrum. I always have Democrats on one side, Republicans on the other, correct? Democrats, those are your liberals. Republicans, those are your conservatives. Conservatism, okay? We're going to start getting Republican presidents. You have your far right, and you have your far left. That's what those things mean. When you hear the term and somebody says, oh, he's so far right, or he's so far left, he's so far Republican, he's so far Democrat, that's what they're saying. They're at the very end. They couldn't get any more Democrat or Republican. Moderate would be up here, maybe a little bit more Republican up here. So some of your Democrats we've talked about are FDR, right? And namely the New Deal. And they're the ones that tend to like to enlarge the federal government. You have Obama, another Democrat, and he had Obamacare, right? And they want the larger federal government. They want the federal government to control more things than they already do. Over on the Republican side, you have people like, okay, take your, well, do I have to use that? Yes, okay. Trump, one of the first things he wanted to do was get rid of Obamacare, okay? Because he wanted to give that choice up to the states. The Republicans tend to want the states to have more control rather than the federal government. I'm not saying that it's wrong. There's a lot of things I think that are good as far as, like the school systems, for example. They are, school districts are state run, okay, and that's a good thing. However, there are some things that are implemented in the schools, such as disabilities and those kind of rights because of ADA. That's why the federal government can come in and tell you that a school has to have an interpreter for a deaf student. Okay, does that make sense? So then you also have your others like Ford. You have your other Republican candidates. For some reason, it's just totally slipped my mind right now. Sorry. But you get the point, right? You get the point. So we're going to talk about Ronald Reagan, who is the one that is going to be Republican, which is why we have the resurgence of conservatism, okay? Now let me tell you a little bit about this whole entire chapter. You know how I like to embed videos in my PowerPoints, because not only does it break up the monotony of hearing my voice for a whole whatever long time it is, but it also gives you some visuals and some cues to see that will help you with information I've just given you or I'm about to give you, right? And I like to use videos also because there are a lot of you who are visual learners, or you just like to have things simplified, and so I do a lot of stuff like that. Or I just want to supplement what I'm saying and show you these real-world examples, because you deserve to see real-world examples. So many people can just teach history and say, this is how it was, and you just need to know it. Well, why do we need to know it? Because you just need to, because the state says you do. That's not a good enough answer. It's because things like this have happened before, and I want you to see the proof that they've happened and whatnot. So what I'm going to ask you to do, occasionally, very often actually, because there's a lot of video links in this PowerPoint, and I don't really have a way to be able to click on those links and show them to you and have them embedded into this video. So occasionally I'm going to say, okay, what I want you to do now, I want you to stop, I want you to pause the video, I want you to go into Schoology, I want you to have New National Direction up, and then inside New National Direction there's another folder that says the Resurgence of Conservatism, and it has these links, okay, and they're all in order. So I'm going to say, like the first time we do it, I'm going to say, okay, now pause, go in and watch these two links that say Republicans versus Democrats. And they're really kind of interesting, okay? So we're going to talk about all kinds of things in this chapter. We're going to talk about not just politics. We're going to talk about the changes in the world. We're going to talk about music. We're going to talk about all the things that happened in the 90s. Do you remember what I said happens in 1991? I think I heard somebody say it. What was the longest period that we had, the longest era we studied? Somebody said it. Yes, Cold War. That's what's going to end in 1991. We're going to talk about that too, okay? So, liberalism versus conservatism. Liberalism, young men went to their spree of looting because they had been given permission to do so. They had been given permission to do so by all of the papers and magazines, movies, and documentaries, all the outlets for the purveying of enlightened liberal attitude and progressive liberal policy, which had for years and years been proclaimed that race and poverty were sufficient excuses for lawlessness. Am I going to ever ask you about that again? No. That's just a primary source that I wanted you to have. It's from Looking in Liberal Racism. It's a commentary from 1977. All right, so the first thing you're going to do, you're going to put me on pause, and you're going to go in and watch these 2 video links, and then you're done for the day. You don't really have to take any more notes for this day, because that's going to take you up to your 15-minute limit. They're only about maybe let's see, the first one's about 3 minutes long, second one's 2 minutes and 22 seconds long. They did these surveys of these people groups, and all of the Republicans are wearing red t-shirts, all of the Democrats are wearing blue t-shirts. They asked a question, and this was right before the 2016 election, okay, is when this was done. So they're going to ask questions like, who do you support? Do you think Trump would make a good president? If you agree, stand in the circle that says yes. If you don't agree, stand in the circle that says no, okay? Makes sense? And they're really kind of entertaining. So pause the video, watch, and then come back and we'll continue. All right, so what did you think about those videos? Yeah, I know there's at least somebody out there that did not pause, and you're just rolling through, but really they're kind of cool videos, so go back and watch them. Okay, so at the time, modern liberals, they believed the government should regulate the economy to protect people from the power of corporation and wealthy elites. Remember, this started as a very progressive idea right at the beginning of the school year when we were all together in our classroom. Actually, yesterday, guys, just side note, you know how I am, I get squirrel. I did actually cry for the first time yesterday. Yeah, because of all this. I bawled for about 45 minutes. Finally got it out. I really miss being with you guys. Okay, so way back then we talked about the progressive era and how they had to come in and regulate some of the business because they didn't need to be eating green meat, right? Or meat that had bugs in it, because there was no USDA. There was no FDA. There was nobody inspecting medications and inspecting food and all that. So government had to regulate some of the economy, also to break up those monopolies, right? So liberals tend to believe that government should regulate the economy. They also believe federal government should help those people that do not have as much as the others. Like if you don't have as much as maybe somebody else has, you need some money, you need food, you need medical care. The government should help those people. And they usually do that by taxing the wealthier people. Liberals also believe that those with greater assets should take on more of the cost of the government. This is the theme that says we need to tax the rich higher than we tax the middle or the poor, okay? Liberals favor government intervention in the economy, but they do not support the government regulating social behavior. So in other words, you have to do things like this, but don't tell me how to live. You have the right to do this and that and that and this, but don't tell me how to live socially, okay? That tends to be. Now let's talk about the other side. Conservatives tend to distrust the government. They want to limit it. They want to limit the size of the federal government. And guys, I've been talking to you about that since day one. Even before we started Gilded Age, I drew this on the board for you, right? And I said I will always refer to that. They tend to favor a smaller federal government. Basically more control needs to be given to the states. They also believe that increased economic regulation could not lead to regulation in every aspect of people's behavior. They also fear that the government will so restrict people's economic freedom. So if they're really in control so much, guess what? The people's freedom's going to kind of not be quite as free. Does that make sense? Okay. Conservatives tend to oppose high taxes. Again, when you create these social programs or create these programs that have to have people working for them, where's that money going to come from? You got to increase taxes, right? So conservatives tend to oppose those high taxes and believe that most social programs result from issues of morality and character. They also believe that morality and character issues are best addressed through your church or through other private entities, individuals, communities. Those are the ones that should help take care of the disadvantaged and not the government. They do support the use of police powers to regulate social behavior. That's a little bit different than saying, hey, we can do what we want. That's you have to regulate it somehow, right? You have to control it, otherwise we're going to live in an anarchy. For a lot of Americans, this conservative idea that the government had become too big meant that there were so many social programs, and the social programs gave way too much to the people. Okay? So during the Cold War actually helped revive support for conservative ideas. A lot of struggle against communism. Remember, if I were to continue drawing on the political spectrum, you have your Democrats here. If you go a little bit further down where there's no room on the board, that's where your socialism is. You keep going down all the way to the floor, that's pretty much communism, okay? But they're on that side. Just keep that in mind. A lot believe that liberal ideas are basically making people lean towards communism. Well, hey, let's let the government do everything. But conservatives really want to stop this trend, okay? Liberalism started to lose support of a lot of Americans about this time. In the 50s and 60s, the South and the West were more conservative than other regions, probably because maybe, perhaps, the Bible Belt, perhaps, I don't know. Democrats really voted for Democrats, while conservatives in the West tended to vote for Republicans. So, a lot of industry was declining in the Northeast, leading to the region's name, the Rust Belt. Get it? It's old, it's tired, it's rusty. And they wanted the government to help them solve some problems, unemployment and all that. Americans in the Sun Belt, however, this is basically your West, Midwest type states. They opposed high taxes. They also imposed the government coming in and putting too many rules that would interfere with their own growth. A lot of Southerners were angry with the Democrats for supporting civil rights. Have we talked about civil rights during every single era that we've talked about? We have, haven't we? Yeah, we have. So they saw this as the federal government's effort to impose its policies on the South. I'm going to skip past a little bit of that. If you want that, you can go back and get that. So the United States is going to see a lot of cultural changes in religion at this time. Again, think Bible Belt, okay? During the 60s and 70s, a lot of people are moving to the suburbs to escape the American cities. You get your suburbs. A lot of things contributed to the fact that we got suburbs as well. People were afraid that the society had just lost its touch. It's lost its touch with traditional values. Think of counterculture. Think of all the stuff that went on during the Vietnam War, right? Including a lot of protesters, their contempt for authority. They defied authority. A lot of people, because of all this, were drawn to conservatism. They were shocked by the Supreme Court decisions that protected the rights to abortion. We talked about Roe versus Wade. They also limited prayer in schools. They protected for people accused of crimes, which expanded conservative cause. Feminist movement, Equal Rights Amendment, upset a lot of religious conservatives because it challenged the traditional family. Now, when I was teaching dual credit, if you were in dual credit or AP at the beginning of the school year and you weren't in it anymore, and you're watching this, you probably talked about all those Native people groups where the women were the ones that were in charge. So this whole idea of women not being the, I hate to use this term, but sole breadwinner of the family, it really comes from Europe. It comes from the Europeans. Makes sense, right? A lot of evangelicals, those are your big-time preachers that really preach really heavy stuff. They were the largest group of religious conservatives. You had like Billy Graham, Oral Roberts, people like that. There were televangelists, and these are going to be your evangelists that are going to go on television and consistently, preach on television. You had Pat Robertson, Jerry Falwell, and his Moral Majority. Of course, some of them had all fallen to things that they got involved in, which kind of did not help their careers, and they really fell. But really, everybody makes mistakes. There's not one person out there that's fake, okay? We're talking about gun control and the NRA. So a lot of Christians, they thought that the most important thing that drew them conservatism was Roe versus Wade, because a lot of Christians believe that once conception begins, there's a person in there, okay? A lot of people were conservatives or Republicans because of that, especially in the South and the West, and they were concerned about the growing federal power due to the passage of the Gun Control Act of '68. Crime rates rose in the 60s. Congress is going to impose a lot of rules and laws on gun sales and gun ownership. If you have been in jail in most states, I think if not all states, you can't even own a gun. Okay, if you have a felony against you, you can't even own a gun. The National Rifle Association, or NRA, is going to focus on politics. So let's talk a little bit about Reagan and his road to the White House. The election of '80, Ronald Reagan was a very committed conservative. That's why we are calling this chapter the Resurgence of Conservatism. His adult experiences actually helped him become conservative. He wasn't always a conservative. He was a radio broadcaster at one time. He was a popular Hollywood actor in the 1930s. He was the president of the Screen Actors Guild, like I already mentioned. He even was one of the ones that testified in the House Un-American Activities Committee when we talked about McCarthyism. These are some of the movies he was in. Bedtime for Bonzo, that Hagen Girl. Let's see if I can, show you. Okay, so that's Ronald Reagan right there. Wait, that's too thin right there. Let's try this one. There's Ronald. Wait, well, that's the wrong color. Ronald Reagan's right there. That's not a very good color, is it? Let's try this one. Hey, there we go. Hey, there's Ronald Reagan. And over here, there's Ronald Reagan right here. Okay. Next movie, Newt Rockne. You might have heard of that movie. That's probably one of his most famous movies. And then we have this one. Let me move myself. King's Row. Okay. Let's see. Reagan ran for governor in California. He won. He served a second term. A lot of people who were frustrated and ran for president in 1980 wanted him to become president because of their frustrations. He promised to cut taxes. Yeah, see? Just like I said, over here, okay? He wants to cut taxes. How are you going to cut taxes? By limiting some of those programs, right? For the first time since 1954, Republicans had control of the presidency and the Senate. So, he believed that the key to restoring the economy and overcoming problems in society was to get Americans to believe in themselves once again. Believe in yourself. His first act as president was to sign an executive order. Now, that's how you remember executive branch, executive, that's the president, okay? Eliminating price controls on oil and gasoline. Another thing. And this is called trickle-down economics. So now you're going to pause the video. Actually, I'm going to end this video, and I'm going to go ahead and upload it, and then I'm going to record the next video. So this is a good time for you to go in and watch the next video link. I want you to watch it. Yeah, ha ha ha. It says Reaganomics. Watch that video, and please watch it. Please watch it. Yeah, okay. All right. I'll see you next video. Ciao. Okay, ciao now.